Today we're touring the Fredericksburg battleground, which was one of the major battles in the early part of the Civil War. It was a very great victory for the Confederate Army and a very bad defeat for the Union Army, who was under the command of General Ambrose Burnside at the time. And one of the significant things about this battle is it preceded, or was actually kind of linked to, the Battle of Chancellorsville, which occurred just a short time afterwards. And that battle is where Stonewall Jackson was wounded and later died of his wounds. This is the Ennis House, which sat right in front of the Confederate lines along the sunken road, which was guarded by a stone wall. We'll get to that in a second. This was caught in a pretty heavy crossfire between Union and Confederate armies, and the inside has a lot more, but it's locked right now. But on the outside, you can still see several places where shell fragments and musket balls came through. And over here to our right is part of the original wall in front of the sunken road. Most of the wall here is a reconstruction from the 30s, but that piece right there that you're looking at is the original wall the Confederate troops were standing behind. This is one section of the pontoon bridge that Burnside was going to use to cross the Rappahannock to get into Fredericksburg and across to the Confederate lines. But there was a 10-day delay getting these things here from Washington, which was critical because that gave Lee the time he needed to reinforce and set up his lines across the river. And once they arrived, General Burnside would use, under Confederate fire from Fredericksburg, would use these pontoon bridge sections to cross that river. The wall you see on this side is the wall on the sunken road, right in front of the sunken road where the Confederates had their line of battle. So a lot of Confederate infantry troops are here, 3-4 men deep, loading and reloading for the people in front against the wall, firing down onto the Union troops. And it was such an impregnable position with artillery up here on the heights just behind them. The Union forces never did make it more than a couple of hundred yards close to this wall. They simply died in the field down below. Standing on top of Mary's Heights, which is where the Union artillery was concentrated. And behind me, over my shoulder, you can see a steeple of one of the churches. That is Fredericksburg. And then if we look over here to the right a little bit, this is the view the Confederate artillery had as the Union troops, brigade by brigade, in this very narrow section of land, attacked up this road or up this field toward the wall of the sunken road and this artillery position. It was just a slaughter down below. Standing on top of Prospect Hill, which is the extreme right flank of the Confederate Army. And this is where Stonewall Jackson's 35,000 troops were aligned. Initially, on the second day of battle, there was a breakthrough by George Meade's division through Jackson's lines just in front of me, but the Confederates eventually counterattacked and retook the position. Chatham House behind me was built in the late 1700s by William Macy, but during the war here, this was Burnside's headquarters during the first Battle of Fredericksburg, and it was also used as a hospital. As Union troops would get wounded, they'd bring them back here, and surgeons would do surgery in some of the rooms here. And it was also the place where a few famous visitors visited. George Washington visited here once, and Lincoln actually had dinner here in May of 1863. During the Battle of Fredericksburg, this was General Burnside's headquarters, and there were Union troops all through this house. And on the original walls that are in here, you can still see where some Union soldiers had done some artwork, their unit numbers, and even written some messages.
finally found some trees that were here during the Civil War, particularly during the Battle of Fredericksburg, right next to Chatham House. And trees like this are called witness trees. So these trees next to me, these catalpa trees, were here during the battle and witnessed what went on.
This family cemetery sits on top and into the rear of Mary's Heights, and during the battle, the wall was ultimately completely destroyed by cannon fire and artillery shells, and a lot of the monuments inside were damaged as well. But before that happened, the Confederate surgeons and a lot of units would take shelter behind this wall. They would treat wounded in this cemetery. And while the wall was destroyed and rebuilt, these gate posts are the original gate posts. And you can see here, we still have impact marks from artillery shells as they would strike the gate post. And over here, you see musket ball holes or pock marks from musket fire. Just behind me here is one of the monuments that was damaged during the battle and later repaired. A lot of the tombstones here were damaged during the battle and repaired as best they could. We're hiking a quarter mile up a trail to the top of Telegraph Hill, which was Lee's observation post during the Battle of Fredericksburg. This is the position he took pretty much in the center of the Confederate lines, where you can see Prospect Hill to his right, Fredericksburg to his front, and from where he observed the battle. In the late hours and early morning of May 1st through 2nd, General Lee and Stonewall Jackson met in this clearing right here and hatched a pretty bold plan that Lee would divide his army, send Jackson's corps 13 miles through small, narrow roads and wood lines to go around General Hooker's flank, surprise him with an attack. On his way around to Hooker's flank, Jackson's corps passed down this road right here. As they did, they passed this structure, and there was a lot more buildings here then. This was the Catherine's Furnace Iron Works. And this iron works supplied iron and raw iron and pig iron to the Confederate for different things, for railroads and for ships and for ammunition and whatever else they needed it for. But Jackson's corps passed right by all of these buildings that used to be here, headed down the road to get Hooker's flank. General Hooker's 11th Corps were facing this direction, the direction I'm facing. This is south. And over to my right, General Stonewall Jackson's corps was in the tree line just beyond that hill. So imagine you're a Union soldier caught completely unaware. You're at your tent, you're bivouacked, you're doing whatever needs to be done to take care of your stuff. You're waiting for an order to do something from General Hooker's command. And over that hill come more than 25,000 Confederate troops, taking you completely by surprise, sweeping through your area, sending your entire unit on a panicked retreat back through the headquarters toward the river. The night of May 2nd, after Jackson's corps had crushed the Federal flank near Chancellorsville, he was out doing a night reconnaissance with his officers in between the Union and Confederate lines. In the confusion of the night, the Confederate skirmishers thought they were Union troops and started firing at them. Jackson was struck 3 times, once in his right hand and twice in his left arm, at this spot in the woods. Shortly after being wounded, they took Stonewall Jackson to a field hospital and then to about a mile from here at the Wilderness Tavern, where they amputated his left arm. After they amputated it, one of his staff officers looked at it, decided we need to do something with this that shows some respect. So his chaplain, Reverend Lacey, Stonewall Jackson's chaplain, picked up the arm and brought it up here to his brother's estate, the Elwood estate, and buried it where this marker is. his overwhelming victory here, and then a few days later, west of here at Chancellorsville, it spurred Lee to take a dramatic step and invade Pennsylvania, which then, a few months from now, led to the Battle of Gettysburg.